Luka Doncic is a Laker. De'Aaron Fox is a Spur. Zach Lavine is a King, and Anthony Davis is a Dallas Maverick. And of all of these, I think the Luka one is obviously the most shocking. But for me, as a Nets fan, I am incredibly grateful. But me as an NBA fan, I'm incredibly disgusted, and I'll talk about that on today's Quick Thoughts episode. This is going on the podcast feed too, so if you're listening over there, hop on the socials on YouTube at Lots of Thoughts Sports, on Instagram at Lots of Thoughts Sports, on TikTok at Lots of Thoughts Sports. You can follow me on Twitter too as well at LOT Sports Pod. This is a shocking trade deadline, man, and it's not even over. It's we're still what days away from the trade deadline actually being over, and I thought there would be actually a relatively slow deadline. Maybe call me crazy, call me a lunatic. Clearly, I was wrong, very, very wrong. But I thought maybe Jimmy Butler gets moved. I doubt De'Aaron Fox gets moved. I thought the biggest name that could be moved would be lower than those statuses. I tell you what, you told me last week that Luka Doncic be traded for Anthony Davis, I would have called you crazy. And that's what this trade is, man. But the full trade details before I dive in case you haven't seen it, in case you've been living under a rock for the last 24 hours or so. The Lakers get Luka Doncic, Maxi Kleber, Markieff Morris. The Mavericks give up, the Mavericks get Anthony Davis, Max Christie, and the 2029 Lakers first. And the Jazz get Jalen Hood-Schifino and 2 seconds for essentially facilitating the trade, giving some money in there, right? To make sure that those figures work. Here's the problem I have with it is, first of all, let's start with from the Lakers side because that's a lot easier. Good for them. Good for them. I know it was difficult for them to move on from Anthony Davis, especially given the relationship with him and LeBron. Let me start with the Lakers because that's going to be the easiest part. Good for them, man. This is a win-win-win all the way through. Uh, they had 2 first-round picks and some desperation to find their path forward, and boy, did they find that path, man. Um, I get it. Anthony Davis and LeBron won you a ring in 2020. Anthony Davis is LeBron's best friend in the whole wide world. That's upsetting to break them apart, obviously. But when you have a chance to essentially trade Anthony Davis, Max Christie, who's sure a promising young role player, and a first, which is not going to mean much now that you have Luka, in 4 years down the line, for one of the top three NBA players currently. I mean, I think you could argue it's him or Jokic or Giannis. I don't think there's an argument for anyone else. I think he's better than Embiid. He's clearly better than LeBron at this age. He's better than pretty much anyone. I mean, Shea, okay, Shea's in that conversation. Luka is the elite talent, one of the elite talents of the NBA. And he's 25 years old. And sure, you traded Anthony Davis. I think Anthony Davis is an all-star caliber player. Obviously, he's an all-star this year. But he's 32 years old, and he is far from the player he was just a few years ago. There was a moment after 2020 where I remember ESPN had a power rankings of individual players, and LeBron and AD were number 1 and number 2. That's not the case anymore. LeBron's maybe top 10, maybe, and Anthony Davis is probably around 15, maybe 18. I don't know. And you trade one of them, excuse me, for a top 5 player in the sport. And I know we could argue about the fit between Luka and LeBron. I don't really care, frankly, if I'm the Lakers. If I'm a Lakers fan, I love LeBron. I'm not a Lakers fan, and I'm a LeBron fan. But if I'm a Lakers fan, and even though LeBron got us a championship, even though he came and gave us the best moments since Kobe retired, really since Kobe was elite, right, in the 2010, 2011, 2012 area before his Achilles tear, it doesn't matter. He's 40 years old. Luka is the future now. Luka is way better than LeBron is now. He's not better than LeBron was. Just get that out of the way because I know that could be chopped up. No, 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 no. But as of right now, Luka is the future of your franchise. You have an elite young player to build around for the next 10 years plus if you can keep him happy. And while LeBron has been great for you, and while you still could make a run in his career, right? If he stays around, if he's happy with this, because he does love Luka, if you can convince him to play with Luka and make a run at it for the next couple years. You could do well with him, but the future is Luka. And so good for them for getting a direction. Good for them for not giving up a whole lot of assets outside of Anthony Davis. The fit between Luka and LeBron is going to be interesting. I think they do a lot of similar stuff, especially as LeBron's gotten older, but still, I think it could work. Both high IQ guys, both uh, relatively good shooters from the outside, both big bodies, both ball handlers. I think it's going to be an interesting situation. They definitely need a center now, and I think that's their path forward to at least making the playoffs. But I think it's a huge win for them. On to the Mavericks. This is franchise malpractice in the highest form. And I'm not saying that lightly. Listen, I bet on the bad end of trades as a Nets fan. I watched my team trade for Kevin Garnett and Paul Pierce and sacrifice their whole entire future that the Celtics turned into Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown and Marcus Smart and all these assets that they went on to win a championship and are primed to win one, two, three more. I don't know. And then not so long after, I watched them trade away Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving and James Harden in a span of 18 months. That being said, as a Nets fan, I'm ecstatic because that aforementioned Kevin Garnett, Paul Pierce trade is no longer the worst trade in NBA history. And I know that's crazy to say, unless the Mavericks get a ring in the next 2 years, because I think that's all they'll have with this Kyrie Irving, Klay Thompson, Anthony Davis, combination. Unless they get a ring in the next 2 years, it's stupid. It's confoundingly dumb. And the fact that the Mavericks not only orchestrated this trade, not only reached out to the Lakers and said, "Hey, we're going to trade Luka," without Luka requesting a trade. The part that drives me absolutely up the wall, and I'm not even involved here, is that you didn't host a bidding war. Okay, you want to move on from Luka. I think that's absolutely idiotic, but whatever. Okay, let's just accept that as the truth. You could create a bidding war with every single other NBA team outside of Wemby, Jokic, maybe the Thunder's young assets, the Celtics, Giannis. There's a few core group of guys that I wouldn't trade for Luka Doncic. And that's it. You go to the Houston Rockets, you could have gotten a Ben Thompson, Jabari Smith Jr., and a host of picks, including the Suns, who look like they're on the brink of explosion. You go to the Nets, you could have gotten 15 first round picks. I'm joking, but you could have gotten a lot. Maybe 15 picks and swaps along with Cam Thomas and Cam Johnson and whoever else you wanted. Noah Clowney, I don't know. I mean, a host of other NBA teams would have given an absolute king's ransom. And I have to hear Nico Harrison. This is the worst part of this. And this is why I'm sick for Mavericks fan. Not only did Luka give his all to this franchise, and I know, yeah, blah, blah, blah about the weight. I don't give a crap. He plays into playing shape. Give me a break on that, by the way. That's just absolutely ludicrous. Was James Harden coming in out of shape every year in Houston a detriment to their seasons when they made near title runs and challenged against the 73-9 Golden State Warriors? Oh, I'm sorry, it was the KD Golden State Warriors. It was after the 73-9, the better Warriors team. When it was James Harden and Chris Paul and small ball five, PJ Tucker. That's not my point. Anyway, point is the keeping Luka in shape and the defense is such BS. But this is the quote from Nico Harrison. Well, there's two quotes I have that absolutely drive me nuts. First, I believe that defense wins championships. I believe that getting an all defensive center and an all NBA player with a defensive mindset gives us a better chance. We're built to win now and in the future. Is the future this season? Then maybe you're right. I don't think you are, but maybe you're right. You could argue from a basketball perspective that the team that you have around Luka was not the best fit, and that Anthony Davis swapped in there could be a better team. I disagree because I think when we talk about defense, you had an elite defense last season after trading for PJ Washington and after trading for Daniel Gafford and Derek Lively's development last year, alongside two guards that are not great defensively in Kyrie Irving and Luka Doncic. You had an elite defense. So you're telling me that's what made you make the decision? BS. And then the next quote, Nico Harrison on the future, whether they have a better chance to win in the future, that is. The future to me is 3 to 4 years from now. The future 10 years from now, they'll probably bury me and Jason Kidd by then, or we'll bury ourselves. I want to read that again because I don't think that I read that well enough. The future to me is 3 to 4 years from now. The future 10 years from now, they'll probably bury me and Jay by then, or we'll bury ourselves. And he said this in a press conference right next to Jason Kidd. I've never seen a man more uncomfortable than Jason Kidd in this press conference. He came to Dallas to coach Luka, and pretty much only Luka. I mean, they had assets to be better, obviously, and they ended up with Kyrie Irving, or maybe they had him before they got Jason Kidd. I'm not really sure on the timeline off the top of my head, but regardless, he came to Dallas to coach Luka, and now Luka's gone. And sure, Kyrie and Anthony Davis could be a decent team. I mean, they're not bad. They're going to be a good team, not a great team, a good team. Maybe they'll be this fifth seed in the West. Maybe they'll win a playoff series. Good for them. The future isn't 10 years from now, Nico Harrison. The future isn't 10 years from now. If I have a team I own, right? If I'm any owner in the NBA, and shout out to Mark Cuban, by the way, who sold his stakes in the Mavericks, and now they're trading away his pride and joy in Luka Doncic. He has to be sick today. If I owned a franchise, and one of the arguments that my general manager used to why he should make a trade is that we're better in the future 3 to 4 years from now, because 10 years from now, I'll be gone. Why in the world would I make that trade? The owner's in it for life, man. And clearly the GM's not. GM does not have their best interest at heart. You know what this tells me? This was desperation. As crazy as it was between the Mavericks, who had the 25-year-old superstar, and the Lakers, who had a 40-year-old LeBron and a 32-year-old Anthony Davis, the desperate team here was the Mavericks for no reason. They felt they couldn't win now with Luka. And Nico Harrison probably felt, I got to make a move. I got to do something that hopefully raises our ceiling. I got to play a lottery ticket and hope it works out. Just an absolutely idiotic move and an even dumber quote to come out of it. I feel for Luka. I feel for the Mavericks fans because at the end of the day, they just lost their franchise player. And Luka just lost a team that he had dedicated his career to, a team that he had carried on his back at times over and over again into the playoffs and deep into the playoffs. Of course, they had the finals run against the Boston Celtics. They had the conference finals run against the Warriors. And his quote absolutely breaks my heart. One of the parts of it. I thought I'd spend my career here, and I wanted so badly to bring you a championship. From a young kid from Slovenia coming over to the U.S. for the first time, you made North Texas feel like home. Dallas is a special place, and Mavs fans were special fans. Thank you from the bottom of my heart, Luka. You did this man dirty, Nico Harrison. You did this man dirty. Not only do you trade him away, not only do you cost him $100 million, by the way, because he's not eligible for the Supermax contract anymore because he got traded from the team that drafted him, which is its own conversation about the CBA, but that's not the point. You were that desperate to get rid of him because you didn't want to offer him a Supermax that you blindsided him. And I understand, in a way, I understand the Lakers not telling Anthony Davis and LeBron until the deal was done, because at the end of the day, the Lakers have to do what's best for the Lakers. And that's probably not hoping they can get another ring from this core, this AD LeBron core. When you have the opportunity to keep things under wraps and trade for Luka, you do it. I understand it from their side. I understand not telling their stars. If you're the Mavericks and you don't believe building around Luka is the smart move, you tell him that. And you say, where do you have interest in playing? You get a short list from him. You do right by the player. And then you start the bidding. You don't trade him to a place that he doesn't want to. Well, who knows if he wants to go, but that he might not want to go for less assets than you could have gotten in the name of trying to compete over the next 2 years, right? It was Anthony Davis or nothing, according to Nico Harrison. And that's just absolutely stupid. So, in summary, as an NBA fan, I want to say I'm ultimately drastically disappointed. Not because the Lakers benefited. I mentioned I'm a LeBron fan. I was a fan of his in Cleveland. I was very happy when they won the title in 2020 for him and his legacy. But I'm not upset that the Lakers got Luka Doncic. That's not really what matters to me here. What matters to me here is that you have a fan base in Dallas that just is absolutely devastated and probably will not recover for a decade plus. At least. I mean, I'm a Nets fan, and we're still wishing Kevin Durant comes back to Brooklyn at some point. And he's been gone for years. He's been in Phoenix for years now. And that was the 35-year-old Kevin Durant, who, by the way, we got 7 first-round picks and swaps for on top of Mikal Bridges, who we then flipped for 4 more first-round picks. Thanks, New York. Trading away a 25-year-old superstar. I'm sick for the Mavericks fans. But as a Nets fan, hey, it's worse than the Paul Pierce Kevin Garnett trade, so I can't complain all. Now, before I hop into the Kings Spurs trade situation, I just want to say 2 things. One, um, when this actually just one thing. When this trade went down, I was in LA, and coincidentally, I was in LA when the Dodgers signed Shohei Ohtani. So I'm bringing good luck to the city of LA, apparently, whenever I go there. But regardless, I was in LA. I see the notification. I was like, no, Shams got hacked. I texted my brother-in-law, who's one of the biggest NBA fans I know, and he said, yeah, he had to get hacked. I'm like scrounging Twitter for anything confirming it. Finally, I see another ESPN reporter confirm it. I see it on Instagram, and I'm like, he might not have got hacked. This might be real. And it's one of those trades that you try in 2K, but you can't get it through because the CPU thinks it's a ripoff. So it was like shocking. I wonder if you're Nico Harrison, how disappointed you have to be to make a trade that you feel is good, only to go to Twitter and see everyone thinking that the best NBA reporter in the industry was hacked. It was so bad that no one could believe it was actually Shams tweeting it. Gosh, that's an indictment in itself. Anyway, De'Aaron Fox trade, which I thought, even though I didn't think it was likely to happen, would have been by far the biggest trade of the trade deadline. Looks like I was wrong. Regardless, still a huge trade. So the Spurs, in a 3-team deal, get De'Aaron Fox and Jordan McLaughlin. The Kings get Zach LaVine, City Sissoko, 3 first-round picks. So that's this year's Charlotte pick, 2027 Spurs pick, and a 2031 Minnesota pick. And then 3 seconds for so that's this year's Chicago, 2028 Denver, and then their own 2028 pick back. Second round pick. Oh my gosh, my voice is just cracking over and over again. Forgive me. The Bulls get Zach Collins, Trey Jones, Kevin Huerter, and their own pick this year from San Antonio. Listen, I think that the combination of Wemby and De'Aaron Fox is fun. It's a lot of fun. It's going to be dangerous for the league, especially. I mean, I think Wemby is probably a top 10 or so player right now in the NBA. I think you could argue as high as like 6 or 7. By this time next year, I wouldn't be surprised if we're saying he's in that Luka, Jokic, Giannis range, and you add De'Aaron Fox. De'Aaron Fox is going to average so many assists because. So one thing about the Spurs is that Chris Paul is really having a resurgent year, what, 10 and 8 this season. Those averages are really good for him at his age because he's playing with Wemby. This just come naturally. I don't know what percentage of his assists go to Wemby, but it's incredible. And De'Aaron Fox is going to experience that. And De'Aaron Fox is young himself. This is a powerful duo for years to come, and Spurs fans should be ecstatic. Kings fans, I feel for you because you go from having 2 of the most exciting young guards in Fox and Halliburton, and now you don't have either. And you have Sabonis and you have Lavine and DeMar now together again. But it's disappointing. You did net 3 firsts. I mean, it's a decent haul considering Luka went for AD in a first. But I don't know. I would be very depressed if I was a Kings fan, honestly. And then you have the Bulls, who in this trade, give up Zach LaVine. That's the notable one. They get their own first back. Trey Jones, Kevin Huerter, who really cares, Zach Collins. I mean, I shouldn't say who really cares, but these pieces are ancillary. I think at the end of the day, you're probably a little bit disappointed that you're giving up Zach LaVine. You're probably a little bit excited that you're finally making a decision because the team, as currently constructed, was never going to be higher than an 8th seed and was never going to be lower than a 12th seed. It's about time you start tearing down. Maybe Vucevic is next. Maybe Lonzo Ball follows him. But you got to feel for Zach LaVine, man. He spends so first he goes to Minnesota, gets moved in and they weren't very good. Gets moved in the Jimmy Butler deal to Chicago, and spends years in Chicago with one season where they were the 1 seed at the All-Star break when DeMar was an MVP candidate, and then they fell off, and then other years of mediocrity. And so, there's rumors about him going to Denver, rumors about him going to Orlando. and you send him to Sacramento, to a situation that's looking about the same, where your team's going to be between an 8th and a 12th seed, and not very good, but not bad enough, because you still got Domantas Sabonis, who probably should have been an all-star. And you got Zach Lavine and DeMar DeRozan and Malik Monk and other pieces. Unless they completely tear down, you got to feel for the man. Just the same exact situation year after year. And then he gets moved to another city, a less exciting city. No offense to Sacramento, but less exciting than Chicago, just to do the exact same thing. I feel for him. But man, if Luka Doncic wasn't traded, De'Aaron Fox and Wemby would be such a hot topic. But shout out Nico Harrison, I guess, for taking the steam off that trade. And shout out to the Kings, man, for making that trade after Luka and not before. So that the heat is not nearly as placed on them as it would have been without the Luka trade. Let me know what you think about both these deals in the comments below. I've made my opinion known. Thanks, Dallas, as a Nets fan. I appreciate it. Luka and LeBron. Let's see how it goes. I'm kind of excited. I think there's a world, I should have mentioned this earlier. I think there's a world where LeBron ends up getting moved to. The Lakers buy fully into the future. And LeBron is not too happy about them trading AD. Maybe he teams up with Steph in Golden State. Maybe he ends up back in Cleveland. I don't know, but that'll be interesting to see. Let me know what you think in the comments below. If you're listening on a podcast platform, follow us on socials at Lots of Thought Sports. Appreciate the support. Peace out.